Hey, I'm Topher, and if you're anything like me, during the initial lockdown of the pandemic, you noticed a lot of people on social media getting into really cool new hobbies like, you know, making bread, getting into latte art, or just, general things they wouldn't get into because they have to be at work all day. One of the ones I noticed that I got into recently was rug tufting. Now, this is like 2 years later, so a lot more people are into it. But I had a hard time trying to figure some things out when I just started. Basically, I am working on a video that I want to show you guys of like my whole process, but unfortunately some of that stuff got a little corrupted. So I'd rather just sit here and talk to you and try and walk you through it and give you like a 101 of how it was for a beginner like me, just so you're, kind of on the same page. So basically one of the first things you're gonna need is this bad boy. This is a rug tufting gun. I think this is a cut rug tufting gun. There's a couple different types. There's cut pile and loop. I'm pretty sure this is a cut pile. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm still very fresh and new to all this, but it's pretty neat. It's got a little gear here that spins around. There's a pair of scissors underneath that go through and cut the yarn that you push through this material called monk's cloth, or some sort of backing that you look up for rugs, and it's all like through this little needle here. The cool thing is this one's not on, so luckily I didn't cut my finger open just now, but it has a little button. You have this little spinny thing on the bottom that just dictates how fast the actual mechanism is shooting back and forth and putting that yarn into your project. Power switch, rotary. It's pretty simple otherwise. Mine's got a pretty long cord and like a power adapter that it goes into for safety, I assume. And this is where you loop your stuff into, your yarn. And it's pretty cool. These usually cost around 200 bucks, maybe 250. I could be wrong, they could be cheaper, but I feel like I spent around 200 on this alone. In its entirety, getting into this hobby, I spent about $500 just to really start up. A lot of people will buy pre-put together, not assembled all the way, but like pre-prepped wood to make a tufting station. I actually wanted to show you guys that because I did it, I recorded it and did a whole bunch on my phone, but I know they say the best camera is the one you have in your pocket. Sometimes that's not always the case because whatever software I'm using or however I have to use this phone to transfer that information, computer just doesn't like it. And my computer's not like super crazy old, but that's not important. Regardless, basically I bought a bunch of 2x4s, and I thought I was going to make a much bigger area space to actually do the tufting, but I realized I'm in a smallish apartment. It's not a good idea to have that much in there because I don't really have that much room left. I have a lot of stuff, I have a lot of gaming setup and all that stuff. So I bought some 2x4 by 4 foot, so 2 inch by 4 inch by 4 feet, and some 2x4 by 2s. The 2 footers were meant to kind of just hold it in place and keep it stabilized from falling over. Then I bought a couple hobby boards that are like maybe this long, and cut them down a little bit as well. And I basically just kind of screwed everything all together, and it worked out for the most part. There's a couple little eyelets that you will put on the hobby boards, put them right next to it. Matter of fact, I'll just show you. So, oh, sorry if this hits the camera. So, this is my little rudimentary board. Sorry, there's tacks on the front too. So, 2 foot 2x4s and a bunch of other 2 foot 2x4s. I pre-drilled some holes here, and then in this piece where that hole goes into, I just kind of eyeballed it so it's not perfect. And the video that I made, it's a little bit off, so I had to kind of push it. I just want to make sure it wasn't bleeding. I'm good. I got some screws right here for these little hobby board guys right here. These are the ones I took and sanded down. Put that one there, and I have, for these guys, I have little metal, basically like frame holder type of things to make sure they don't tilt or anything, and little doilies for your yarn to go onto. Now the yarn I bought was not on a cone, so I have a 3D printer, and I 3D printed like little yarn holders. They're not perfect, but once you get it set up right, it kind of works. So these little guys right here on the front, these did not come on these pieces of wood. bought this wood, sanded it down in my trunk of my car because I don't have like a house or a garage that I live at. So sanded them down, put these on there. These red things are strips with tacks and little nails on them. The nails are so they can fit into like carpeting. These are really just, you know, rug tacks. But these I hammered into this. I don't have them secured any other type of way except for one of them. I just used a staple gun because I had it on hand and I wanted to see if it would like help, but it didn't really. Just use the hammer, like the nails on there. And these little spikes on here are basically just little nails that you take this monk's cloth or this rug backing. I actually might recommend getting like rug backing. The reason why is because monk's cloth is cool, but it's kind of soft. Rug backing comes with like a yellow line in it. If you look it up on like Amazon, that is usually a little tougher. The reason you want that to be a little bit tougher is because if you're like me, when you start tufting, you actually don't realize, matter of fact, let me put this down now. You see, you know, the tacks and everything on there. I kind of just eyeballed it, but it worked out. I just didn't measure the, you know, angles perfectly. So when you take this and you push it up against the rug tufting, or the monk's cloth rather, I thought the cloth was supposed to be like right here. This is where the guard goes. This guard, this little metal piece right here, you're supposed to push all the way up into it. You're supposed to ram this thing into it. Like, I had no idea. I was doing it for 2 hours wondering why I could not do it right. I was getting so frustrated. But basically, you push this as far as you can. Just boom, stab it right into the monk's cloth, or the backing, whatever. With your yarn, insert it here, you know, take a couple pieces of yarn, put them through here. A lot of people say 2 pieces is good, so it's tough. You have to get like a threading type of thing or like a paper clip and kind of thread it around and push it through here and then yank it through and hope for the best. So you have 1 or 2 yarn pieces through here. 1 if you're doing like a small edge or a small line. 2 if you're just doing filling color and stuff like that, or maybe the outline if it's thick. So 2 pieces through here, cut it so it's like right around the bottom here, just because it saves you a little time, not much, but a very small amount of time gets saved from having to cut the rug down later. So you do that. I leave mine at the lowest speed because I have no idea what I'm doing yet, and then you just go, you know, go through it. It follows, so basically it follows the path upward. So if you go in like this, it's going to go up, you know, because if you try to go side to side or something, you're going to tear your cloth up and it's not going to work. So I just go up, and then when I want to do like an angle or something, sometimes I've only done 2 or 3 rugs so far, so maybe there's a better method, I don't know. But sometimes you turn this a little bit and hold the handle. It just gets tough when you have to go like all the way around. It's tough to come all the way back around because it's just very awkward. Not to say it's a bad thing. It's just, it takes some practice to really understand what you're doing, but it is fun. Some cons are actually putting the cloth on. There's been a few times I cut my hand up or poked myself, which was annoying, but I think that just is getting used to all of this. It might, depending on how handy you are, it might be easier just to buy a pre-prepped, and what I mean by pre-prepped is instead of you having to take one of these, whoops, sorry, I kind of knocked that. Instead of having to pre-drill holes and all that, there's holes pre-drilled in some of them that they make, and basically there's like connectors. You can just connect right here. Now me, I wanted to do these edges, not the bottom feet, but these, I wanted to do 4 feet each, which would be way bigger. But I'm not at that skill level yet. I wanted to get these little clasps that you can like screw one in here and screw one in on the other piece of wood, and you just tighten it and it closes together. I worry that that might not be as good for integrity, but if I make a 4-foot one, I'll try and just use my camera next time instead of my phone and let you know. I wanted to also, the reason I'm doing this and talking about it is because I made this guy right here. So along with the tufting gun, the yarn, the cloth, the wood materials for everything, I bought a projector so I can project images onto the cloth and take a Sharpie. I have, instead of a Sharpie brand, I was at Home Depot and I said, well, while I'm here, and I already saw what I needed on the shelf, it was markers by Milwaukee, and they were just like black markers, and I said, perfect, permanent marker, it's what I need. Basically, I took this cheap little $50, $60 projector, basically put some images on a USB thumb drive, and then, or like, I forget what they call it, but a USB stick, and just plugged it in, navigated the menu and brought up an image of a smiley face that was melting. Clearly this is not what that looks like. It's more horrific, and it looks a little more, how would you say it, cursed. But I mean, you know, for my first try of something that has drips in it, and you know, something I had no idea what I was doing, it's pretty cool. As you notice, he has not had a bite taken out of him. Me not pushing in the tufting gun all the way, I ripped up the cloth that was right here, that was on the square. I ripped it up real bad, but the rest of the outline was done, and I didn't want to redo it because this is almost the size of the 2 foot by 2 foot, you know, apparatus. So I said, you know what, he's just gonna be a little special. He's gonna be unique, and I'm happy with it. For my very first one, I don't think it's that bad. I've made a couple other ones, but there's some things that I'm not a professional with yet. For example, my piling right here, sometimes it's a little thicker on certain ones. Like I wanted to make sure the eyes were black. It's a little thicker on the back. You also have to buy glue. I forgot, you also have to buy glue so you can glue it on. I mean, you don't have to, but you'll be able to pull this out. Like this, I can just tug on it all day and it's good. But I'm gonna glue on the back just to keep everything together. That takes a day or two to dry, but I have a heat gun that I already had that I just hit it with, and it was fine. You just don't want to do that too long because it starts to burn a little bit. It may catch on fire if you do it way too long. I don't mind, like I was pretty up close to it within like 3 inches, which you're not supposed to do, and it was just like smoking, but it wasn't burning, it wasn't on fire, it was just really hot. But basically I put this glue on back here and leave that, let it dry, and then you cut it loose from the actual little apparatus. And you want to do a better job than I did cutting all these strands that are kind of hanging. But if I cut it now and let the glue come up and I cut that, if I pull from here, then it would actually be loose because it's not glued in anymore. So I know it's kind of simple, but for me it took a while to understand until I did it to one of my rugs by accident a little bit. I have a second one that I did. The next one I did was pretty cool. I had a little Kirby. I thought it was pretty fun. So I only had the colors I could work with. Like I only had a limited amount of colors to work with. So I knew I wanted to make Kirby. I want to make more because I think he's the best. But my lining got a little bit better, but I always have a spot here and there that's just random, like black right here on his like thigh. I don't know why that's there. I used yellow for where his eye would be white, and I had blue, black. It was all fine. It's just, you know, still a victim of kind of thicker, you know, area, and you can't really tell once it's glued in, but that area where it's thicker, I put so much more yarn and threading in there, so that's likely why that happened. Now, most recent one I made was pretty cool. I made the emblem from The Witcher, though I did kind of mess it up. I thought it was pretty neat to make. So this one, I made the eyes a bit too thick. I mean, they're still soft, but they're very thick. And one of the lines on here, I think it was like around here or around here, was supposed to be black, but it's just gray now, so it's all a little too gray. I will say it's kind of tough to get the teeth right. Teeth, some features, smaller features, they're tough to get right. You know, it's kind of hard. And this was the biggest one I've made so far, so it took a little while to, you know, dry out. On this one, this is what I was talking about when I said I messed up a little bit. I cut one of the threads at the bottom here, and when I did this, the threads at the bottom were so thin anyways, like compared to my other ones. For whatever reason, this one just wasn't catching right. I cut one of the strands off back here after I was completely done and noticed, oh, it doesn't have glue on it anymore, and I don't feel like, you know, ripping open the glue and doing it again. The glue is actually very difficult to open. I bought like a big tube of it, big jar of it, and I was able to pull one of these out. So just, you know, friendly advice for later on, but it is very fun. It's very cool. I would not be able to, you know, draw these things by hand. I trace them, like I said, and it's cool though because it kind of makes you feel like, yeah, you're following in the lines, but it feels like you're really creatively making something, and you have an impact on how thick or thin certain parts are, which is really cool. It's kind of like a fun thing to learn, and a lot of people do it. You just have to be careful, make sure you're not selling any that are like copyrighted works unless you have express written permission. You know, do commissions from people, make sure that doesn't have anything copyrighted, or, you know, you can take the gamble, but I don't know how a lot of people do it. I see a lot of like Kirby rugs just randomly, and I'm like, I know Nintendo didn't specifically make that. Some people may be able to argue that's like my artistic vision for it. It looks very similar, but there's this thing that's different. Who knows? But it's pretty fun. All in all the startup materials, there may be one or two things I'm missing. So I had yarn, glue, a couple scrapers to kind of spread the glue. Already had a heat gun. Already had, what else did I already have? Already had a 3D printer to print my couple pieces I made for it. The cloth slash backing, the gun, you know, I can't really think of anything else I used for it. I had power tools so I could put all this together. So if you need like power tools or something for it, it might be a better idea just to buy the put together or pre-prepared one for you. So you only need like a screwdriver or something to get that all together. That might save you more money in the long run, you know, markers, other stuff. I had to go and buy a saw because I had to cut some of this wood down a little bit because I had like an electronic one that just wasn't right for this. So, you know, a lot of trial and error, but it was very fun, and it's something that if you want to take the time to do it, I highly suggest it. It's really cool, and it's a really good time. I hope I can be as good as some people are at it. And if you have any questions or anything like that about, you know, my first time doing it, or any tips or anything you might need about putting this thing together, just let me know. Leave a comment, and thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something, or hopefully you at least liked the video. Maybe, you know, later on when I make more stuff or I get better at it, I'll make more videos on this. But, you know, anyways, have a nice day. Thanks for watching. Peace out.